Welcome, everyone, to our December Within Teacher Conversation. My name is Nicol. I'm one of the teachers here, and joining us today is Herky, one of our other instructors. And as we get started today, we do have the chat open. So if you're joining live, you're welcome to ask questions in the chat. There'll also be time where during our conversation, if you want to come off mute, you can also ask questions or share your own thoughts. To get us started, though, Herky has offered to lead us through a brief meditation. So, Herky, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. So welcome. Let's come to a comfortable posture, a posture that supports you with your head, neck, and back straight. And you can either keep your eyes open with a soft gaze or close them completely, shutting down all external stimuli and arriving to this moment. You can take 3 to 5 deep breaths just to get intentional with our practice and helping us settle down. When you inhale, you can fill your lungs with air. Notice the brief pause. And then exhale, you can release with a sigh, releasing all tension and stress from the body. Letting go of the weariness of the day. Letting go of all to-dos, agendas, all the masks that we have to wear. And just come home to yourself. And just do a check-in with yourself, how you are doing, how are you feeling in this moment, allowing any emotion to come through full expression of whatever is here for you, whether it's calm, restlessness, frustration, sadness, high energy, low energy, just embracing and welcoming all of it. Drop into the body. Notice if the body feels fidgety or settled, grounded. Are there any aches or pains? Without the need to fix, analyze, or judge anything, just let's simply be here. Full presence in this moment. Not as a forced, pushed outcome, more like a flow with ease. Like a warm, fuzzy embrace of whatever is the experience in this moment. With a sense of openness and receptivity. We can stay here for the duration of the conversation. And gently, when you feel ready, you can open your eyes, wiggle your toes.
Thank you so much for that practice.
You're welcome, my pleasure.
Yeah, it was lovely. So, for anyone who's watching this recording, if you're new to our studio, we are an online meditation studio based in the Bay Area in California, but with teachers and students all over the world. Each month, we like to host a teacher conversation on a different topic. And today we're talking about peace. And as we get started, we'll just do some gentle introductions. And so I'll go ahead and start, and then we'll hand it over to Herky to introduce herself. So my name is Kim Nicol. I live in San Francisco. I've been meditating for many, many years and teaching as well, sharing this practice for many years. Um, my perspective, especially with meditation, is that like meditation holds no grudge. It's never mad that you don't show up. If you are working on developing your own practice, like meditation is always happy to see you. And so the idea of being really generous, really curious in your practice and really making it your own is something that I hold dear. It's one of the things I love about the studio and the variety of teachers and teachings that we have. But meditation has been a really important part in my own life, in my own journey. And so I'm happy to be here and sharing some of that conversation with all of you. Ricky.
Hi everyone, my name is Herky. I have been meditating for 14 plus years, teaching for not that long, 3 plus years. Meditation, I grew up with wisdom teachings and meditation and other things in India. And it was always in the background, but it became totally forefront, the center of my life when I was going through a little low phase in life and I saw the effect of meditation. I do teach mindfulness meditation, but I've done other things too. I do mantra, devotional, many other types of meditation. And as a mom, I have 3 kids. As a mom, I have found meditation to be my constant companion, my go to, my first love. Yeah. I was in corporate for a long time, but now I'm fully doing only meditation and life coaching.
Amazing. I love that. All right. So as we get started, this question of peace, and I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts around how can we cultivate and grow a state of inner peace? Like, let's just start there.
Yeah. Can I start with something I wrote on my Facebook recently, maybe on peace?
Absolutely. Hmm.
Okay. So I wrote, what is inner peace? Peace is deep acceptance and surrender to the unfolding of life. It is flowing with rather than against the current of life. Peace is when you're no longer forcing people or events to constantly match your expectations. Peace is relinquishing control of things that fall outside the scope of control. Does that mean that you stop engaging with life, become passive, or no longer have boundaries or visions and intentions? Not the least. You plan, act, engage, go about the way you usually do, but release the reins on the outcome of how everything ultimately turns out. Peace is also accepting non peace in yourself when it shows up in agitation, anger, or regret. It is appreciating the rainbow of human emotions rather than holding an image of perfection. It is being present to life that is here and now instead of always rushing to the next best thing. Peace is also deep surrender and gratitude towards life itself. So I thought that it encapsulate what I think of peace.
I love that. That definitely resonates with me too. Especially, I mean, simply the idea of it's the relationship you have with the unfolding and the dynamic nature of being alive, right? Like I like, distinguishing between like we can be peaceful while not feeling tranquil and a sense of like, oh, like everything is lovely, right? Like we can actually, and I actually think that so much of the practice is, what does it mean? What does it look like to have peace when things aren't going your way or when things are challenging, right? And that, I feel like that's such a big part of it. That's such a big part of the practice too, right? Is that as we cultivate this internal quality of peacefulness, we can then have that even when things might not be meeting our expectations, or, something like that.
Right, right. And I've noticed that, as just working your 9 to 5 or just as a busy mom, there are so many moments that are non-peace that and relentless, like, something or the other coming your way. But I feel like one aspect of it is just connecting with the stillness, the deeper states of peace, and that's where a practice is very helpful, a regular meditation practice. But then again, it's not that when you're off the mat now you can no longer be peaceful. That is a journey that you undertake. And when you drop the resistance, because when I used to, when I got the taste of meditation, it was so delicious that this is all I wanted to do in my, many years ago. Then my children were still small, and I would try to meditate, and invariably the boys would fight with each other. They would throw things. They would do everything that I could not. So then I learned to embrace like whatever is happening around me, and that doesn't have to, even it becomes meditation becomes another chore or attachment, or or something that you need to hold on to. So you let go of those, and if you're sure there's benefit of having a consistent practice, having a time and a space, but then you let go of the ideas of how it should look like. Sometimes it could be, drop it down to whatever it is. Sometimes you have to leave it midway. I mean, there is so much that goes on, and you carry that practice, mindfulness, especially. You can do it while having a cup of tea in the morning, or just being with, when you are having a conversation, really really being there, fully present. So life lends a lot of opportunities to practice peace. And then you're also open up to when you cannot do it, when you lose it, like especially when you become a meditation teacher, it's seductive to have, or even people sometimes around you have this expectations that you will be this image of nirvana and peace always, but so not happening.
Right? You stay a human. You are still a
Exactly.
human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
It reminds me too, I had this situation in earlier in this year where my car, I needed to bring it in to be repaired. And there was some damage to the exterior and there was some damage to the interior. And the first part was I felt like I was able to address the situation from a place that was so at ease. Like I didn't flare up, I didn't freak out, I didn't, go into like, oh, like why did this happen? What who did this? It was just like, okay, so this is new, this is new. This is happening. Let's figure out, like I'll call my insurance agent and figure out like what are the steps. Like I was able to address the challenge in such an effective way, and it was this real sense of, oh, this is part of why meditation has been so valuable in my life, is because as a human dealing with human challenges, it becomes so helpful because
mm,
it's kind of like, you don't make it worse by by igniting the resistance, right? Like resisting it,
right,
like, oh, this shouldn't be happening. Okay, so this is
right.
happening. Like,
Yes,
what next? And the
right.
other kind of funny thing was when the car was being repaired, I had brought it to the repair shop. And after a few days or so, they called me and they said, well, there's a part we need for the interior and it hasn't arrived yet. We're not sure when it will come because there's some, supply issues, but the exterior damage has been repaired. So
Mm,
it's drivable and the exterior is fine. It's just the interior part we don't have yet. So if you'd like, you can come and take your car so you have it, and we'll just call you when the, replacement part comes. You can just bring it back and we'll replace it. And I was like,
mhm,
okay, great. So I went and I picked up the car, and before I took it, I said, just so I'm really clear, I just want to make sure. So the exterior is fixed, and you'll call me when the inner piece arrives, and then I'll bring it back. And as I said that, I was like, right, if only it were that easy. I'll just order the inner peace from the internet and it will be delivered and I'll have it installed. And it was just this funny moment of realizing, oh, right, no, like the inner peace is something that we create on the inside. It's not something that we have installed. But yes, like this is such an example of when we actually can use that.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely like they say, you build the muscle of, because you're just, when you sit for meditation over and over again and you do this consistently over a period of time, consistently, you see, oh, it's not always that calm and easygoing. Sometimes there's irritation, there's boredom, there is like, you, depending on the day you've had, there may be a lot of thoughts. You notice, wow, the output is there, and you do it over and over again. So it's so helpful when you carry that to your car situation or
Mhm.
office situation or home situation, relationships, right?
Yeah. And I think what you said too is so great when you were talking about acceptance, So
Yeah,
accepting, like, oh, accepting I'm feeling so tired or I'm feeling so
yeah,
bored, I'm feeling so angry, right?
right,
Like having a peaceful relationship with our own emotions, with our own experience, as well as with others.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm curious, like what are your thoughts on how do we handle anger, resentment, and all of these other emotions that are not necessarily peaceful to experience? Like what are some of your thoughts on that?
yeah. I feel emotions are messengers, they're energy in motion, and they're not to be stuffed under. If anger has arisen, one is, for me, when anger arises, I drop into the body, and just doing it over and over again, I kind of, sometimes I can tell that this is anger is in the chest, anxiety is in the belly, just like you get used to, being with your body, but it could change too. And a couple of things just with anger. So it's the tightness in the chest that's feeling. I drop into the body sensation and just sit with that. While I'm doing that, there'll be a lot of mental chatter. Let's say it's on, over a situation, a person, there'll be so much judgment, and I will be able to like see it's raining, right? Like, how dare they? What happened and what's happening? So instead of engaging with that chatter or saying I'm bad for thinking that, or thinking how it can happen, it's like the dynamics of the mind is at that time throwing a tantrum. I'm going to just let those come. It's not me. I didn't choose. They just thoughts come from nowhere. Um, and I understand at that moment I cannot access, those few moments until it passes. I'm giving light to what has arisen. And often you'll notice that within a few, I would say, moments, minutes, it was longer, the frequency duration reduces over time. It'll begin to come down. Also, if it's anger over a certain thing or person over and over again, then that's worth journaling. Like what's really happening, because some is a boundary being violated over and over again. Is there a deeper issue that's happening? Is there a trauma response? Like what is happening? That's worth like going into when you're in a state of balance to find out what's really going on. But otherwise, everyday situations, it is coming, it'll arrive and it'll go. And when these, what helps is when you say, instead of saying I am angry, you say anger is here, fear is here, irritation is here, so you are not, I am not the anger. It's anger has arisen, in me, and I'm going to, it's an emotion, it's come, it's going to take its course and it's going to leave.
Mhm.
So yeah, a little
Hey,
bit of,
sorry, I just wanted to
yeah,
speak in. That's something that really resonates with me because I struggle with um going into traumas that I have because I kind of fall into that inner child again and I become that inner child and I always end up feeling like my emotions will overcome me. And I have to definitely consistently start practicing saying, okay, that this what's is happening now, but it doesn't mean I am it or will stay it for the remainder of like the whole day or. So I'm kind of struggling back and forth with learning how to like know that I have the emotion there, but not that I'm in it and will stay in it forever kind of feeling.
Yeah. I feel like showing yourself compassion and again dropping into the body a little helps too, because when in that state, it's very hard to like find any reasoning or roots. May not be the optimal state to go deeper. But at that time, you know how you would a friend or someone you love is angry, how you would comfort them if you provided like self-compassion to yourself. And it's not really words. Sometimes you can even do, just like there's like a yoga pose, or there is in some kind of body meditation is like, I think you tap your fingers, you hold it like this and then just tap it to
Oh, okay.
yourself. Um,
That's
or
very
even
useful.
just, yeah, or even simple one on the chest and one on the belly. It'll just bring down, because you don't really need, like I said, at that time, may not be the best to find out why it's happening, but more of that
Hmm.
softness that we need. And we don't need judgment. We don't need, like, just like we're in a state and we want somebody to just be there, that
Yeah.
welcoming us and holding us, so we do that for ourselves.
I know I'm so good at being great to friends, but when it comes to myself, I'm not the best
Yeah,
at it,
we all do
unfortunately.
that. Yeah, we all do that. It's a practice. I had to do that for myself too. I was, yeah, always like a mentor, a coach all my life to, basically. But
Yes.
when it came to myself, I didn't. So I learned that I may not be able to say the right things. There are people who say things to themselves like, I will get there, or I love myself, or whatever, like, is I accept myself. You could, but I feel like forget the language, the mind, just come to the body and whatever it is that's going to help you center yourself. And
Mm.
if you need, like, if you've really been feeling a little burnt out or something, then going into some of those practices where a massage or taking a warm bath, or snuggling yourself
Some
in a
something
blanket,
to be grounded, right?
yeah, just on the earth, anything that's gonna, yeah, help you get
Okay.
grounded. Yeah,
Thank you.
sure, you're welcome.
That's such a great question. And one of the things that comes up for me that I want to add too is that emotion is such a physical experience, right? Which is probably why I love everything, Herky, that you're sharing, which is get into the body, like let the emotion move through the body, support your body on a physical, like physiological level. And one of the ways I think about this too is, and I think especially as you go through life, you will still find moments that really activate a child version of you. And I used to think, why is this happening? Why is this still a thing? Like, what's going on? And the way that I see it now is it's kind of like the part of me that was a little kid who did the best she could at the time. Now that I'm grown up and I've got so many more tools and resources, and I can be the adult that she needed in that moment. And so sometimes I will bring in that conversation of just like, oh, sweetie, it's okay. Like, you're safe. You can feel your big feelings. I still love you. Like, what is it that you need? Because there's often some kind of need that perhaps earlier in life I wasn't able to articulate because I didn't understand. I didn't have the words for it. So the emotion is there, but now we can bring in this really loving, compassionate adult with all that curiosity and that gentleness. And sometimes it's asking, like, what is it that you need? And sometimes the answer is like, I just need permission to be angry at this thing. Like, I've been holding it back and now I'm really ready to go. So we can create this beautiful, safe, welcoming space within ourselves as we are moving into and through adult life, which I think is just quite wonderful.
Yes, I agree, Kim. The two questions I always practice in that state is, how do I feel? What do I need? Pretty much
Mm-hmm.
summed up what you also just said. And they are instrumental at that time, like, because, how do I feel? I feel an emotion, and what do I need? Sometimes it is like I need to express myself, or I need a few moments alone. I need to walk. I need a glass of water. I need, like, just tapping into your own needs, because we're so good at abandoning our needs. And same with, like, being the parent to the inner child that just needs, that attention at that time. So yeah.
I think this is also such a relevant topic as we move, as we've been moving through December, which is holidays, right? It's like we went through Hanukkah or Christmas is around the corner. Because holidays and family, especially because we have so much history and we have patterns with family, you can have this experience where you feel like a very capable, peaceful adult until you engage with that one family member or until that one family dynamic ignites that pattern again, and all of a sudden it feels like what are we doing, why do I feel like that angry little kid, or why do I feel this? And so I think everything that this conversation has been bringing into the light is so helpful in terms of how do we practice this? Like, what does it mean to be mindful, to cultivate peacefulness with ourselves? If we're, even when we're doing, what I sometimes think of as the advanced practice, like it can be easy to be peaceful around strangers who don't know us. It can sometimes be so hard when we're with family that's known us for years and we've got, history and patterns. But that ability, right, to notice and then to create that change, it becomes part of this practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Reminds me of the quote from Ramdas. If you think you're enlightened, go visit your family for a week. But, and for good point for the holidays too, I use the ABC formula. A is acceptance, acceptance of what is uh, present and what is not in your control. B is boundaries, to keep out toxicity, know, when you need to draw the line. And C is compassion for self and for others. So yes, it's tricky when you're around family, like you said, the patterns are ingrained, and there's things that come up. But you have the way to move through is it. This is how I, do the family thing. Yeah, to make the best of
Absolutely.
it.
Well, and I think that becomes such a beautiful possibility and a gift that we can bring into our families and into our family lines, which is that awareness too, that every moment is new. We don't have to continue to recreate patterns that are not nurturing or that are challenging. And again, just coming back, I love what you said about the acceptance, because in the family context, it's often what I found. It's the willingness to let people be as they are, and it's that acceptance where we say, I don't need this person to change. I don't need them to be different. I'm just going to be with how they are, and I can have my boundaries. I can maintain a peaceful experience in myself and in this moment, because the acceptance starts to soften the resistance or the desire for change,
Mm,
right? And that then opens up this space where we can create something new because we're not reacting in a habitual way. And so those patterns then start to shift.
yes, yeah. And especially when there are a few people in the family or one person who doesn't want to continue with the same patterns, especially if they're unhelpful. There's always this desire that comes that, hey, let's be more peaceful, let's be more joyful. But that is also eventually you, like you're saying, see, you accept the person for who they are without the need to change them. And when it's unhelpful patterns, you can always like decide not to engage in those. Mm. I wonder if Nurse, you have any questions, input, we can take that too.
Um, I've just been listening. I'm like, oh yes, this is very true. Um, no, not the questions. Definitely have boundaries with family members, but also if you want to keep them in your life, accept how they are. That's definitely super important to me, which I started learning during COVID, during quarantine.
Mm,
So I started implementing that, which was great. And then obviously moving away, having my own apartment was really great because the literal physical boundary.
mm.
Um, but no questions at the moment. Thank you.
Sure.
Herky, what have you noticed as some of the obstacles? Like, have you observed sort of common obstacles or things where folks or yourself get tripped up around cultivating peace? Like, if we know it, why do we not do it? What do you think?
I mean, I feel like the reactivity has, in my personal life, has lessened. It doesn't go away. There are some things that just come up with patterns, but obstacles, trying to think, because there would be a expectation somewhere sitting there, a belief sitting there that from another person that we can do better than this. And in the behavior, when it doesn't match or when there's injustice, feel like, especially for me, it's very hard to tolerate that. And in that, way, it's sometimes peace can be taken as, oh, my personal peace is more important than you're seeing for what is happening. It could be um, at a workplace, it could be somewhere, in a relationship dynamic, or it could be in the world. Now, not everybody needs to, go out there and fight and stuff, but um, it peace cannot be used as an excuse to um, to be a witness to injustice. Um, when words need to be spoken, it doesn't, it can be conveyed in any format, but when something needs to be addressed, when we're seeing and we need to address it, I feel like that's the time that we need to bring it forth, and whatever the route we need to take, it'll be a little uncomfortable, but we need to do that. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that's such a great nuance and perspective. I know that I've also seen and have coached some clients around the idea that if I'm being peaceful and I cultivate this peaceful quality, does that mean I'm opening myself up to being taken advantage of? Or does it mean
Mm,
like I'll become a bystander or disengaged from like the pursuit of justice or just the awareness of that? And so I
mm,
think there's something when we consider that cultivating peacefulness doesn't mean that we stop engaging or that we're not, having boundaries. Like we can do all of those with a peaceful um, perspective or with a peaceful intention. So it doesn't have to mean that we're like subdued or that we have, like we're just like, I'll be a doormat now, right? Like those are really,
right.
really different things. We can actually be very peaceful and very clear
Yeah.
about our position or about our, our intention or engagement.
Yeah. Because when I initially started meditating, I found like sort of my doorway to peace. And I feel like that's where I was, whenever a heated conversation or an unfairness or something happened, I was timid to speak, or address it. And I would go and meditate my way and find my peace. And then, but that was like just a band-aid solution. It wasn't addressing the root. So over time, I embraced that it's going to be uncomfortable to voice my opinion or to lay a boundary or whatever it entails. And it's going to bring non-peace in the body. Basically, there could be, some sensations that are happening, and initially you're even fearful to, address those. But over time, you train yourself, train your mind, train your body to be the container that, although this is happening, it's not an exactly a peace state to when you want to address. It may require, again, the delivery could be done, in any manner. It could be done you can be firm, and you don't need to yell. You can just be firm about what's acceptable and what's not. But it's not going to be a peaceful way to doing it. Eventually, it will get to a point where you'll be like, oh no, sorry, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that also kind
Yeah.
of calls up the idea of like peaceful for whom. So it
Yeah.
may be like I'm very peaceful with my decision to say this hard thing or to be very direct with someone. It may be uncomfortable. I am at peace with that discomfort because it's important. And this other person may be uncomfortable, and I am at peace with their discomfort. I don't need to change
Yes.
it or avoid it. The willingness to move towards the discomfort, but from this peaceful place.
Very important what you said about the other person too. Like there is a subtle expectation that, hey, I'm trying to say this to you. Why don't you understand? Or but it's like it's
Yeah.
okay if your reaction is going to be anything. I am not molding you or controlling you to have a certain reaction to what I am, need. But this is my need and I need to speak it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to also speak to is that I think sometimes, well, I don't think this is something that I've had conversations with folks before. Um, there might be a hesitation or a fear of being peaceful, thinking that it will be boring, right? Like
Mm.
the drama is exciting. The reactivity it can feel a little bit addictive, right? Just like the
Mm.
energy in it can feel like, being swept up. It can be intoxicating. And
Yeah.
so I think there's also sometimes this journey of realizing, oh, becoming more peaceful and cultivating a quality of peace inside is not going to mute me. It's not going to drain the color out of my
Right.
life. It's not going to be a boring experience. I'm not going to become a boring person. You can
Right.
actually still, have this quality of peacefulness and actually really enhance all of these dynamic qualities. So I wanted to say that in case anybody is watching this recording and thinking, peacefulness sounds like a great idea, but it sounds really boring. That's
It's
not
for the
that's not what happens.
I know it's definitely true that when you're used to a life of drama and chaos, when things are silent, you're like, what is happening or what's going to happen or why is this not fun?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I may have shared this story with you before, but when I first started meditating, I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't interested in it. I had this idea of what, meditation was like and what people who meditate were like. But I had this friend who invited me to class. And I said, no, I'm not interested. But she kept
Mm.
inviting me. She's like, I don't know, Kim. I think there's something here. I think you'd really enjoy this class. I think you'd really like this teacher. I think you should, I just want to invite you. I just want to invite you to this meditation class. So
Mm.
finally I decided, okay, fine, I'll go, you know. And I was feeling like, a little bit skeptical, like, oh, we're going to have to sit on the floor and it's probably going to be really boring. I'm just going to sit and like wait, for, that was the idea I had of it. And when I
Mm.
went to this class, it's so interesting to think of it now, but I was genuinely surprised that we didn't have to sit on the floor. We sat in
Mm.
chairs. I thought, I didn't know you
Mm.
could meditate in a chair. I'd never seen that depicted. So I didn't have
Mm.
an image of it, but we just sat in folding chairs in a circle and he guided us through this practice. And what I found was it was the exact opposite of boring because it's this
Mm.
moment of, stillness and the eyes are closed. So you really get acquainted with what is your mind doing right now? Where is it going?
Mm.
What is it offering you? What emotions do you have that maybe I've been ignoring or not paying attention to or,
Yeah.
working to avoid? How does my body feel right now? What is
Yeah.
my level of fatigue or, whatever. And it was just this awareness that like, as I practiced, I thought, this is so fascinating. I'm
Okay. Yes.
back. Okay. But it
yes.
was
Back.
like everything went kind of from a little, just went into like high definition. And all of a
Mm.
sudden I just became more aware of this really rich experience that
Yes.
was always happening and always available when I simply brought the attention in this particular direction. And that was definitely a light bulb for me when I realized, oh, meditation is not about sitting in a certain way, closing your eyes and waiting for something to happen. It actually is a
Mm.
very active internal practice. Like the body is
Mm.
still, but the attention is bright. And there are so many different ways we can work with our attention that actually are very interesting.
That's true. I feel like it in fact adds more depth and color to your you can especially the moments that you savor the moments that are, I feel like it becomes more precious because
Mhm.
you are not caught in the drama or sucked in by, some of your judgment and thoughts and all those things that we would take so for real, right? I would think that you're not doing enough or you are behind or you're a bad parent, and I would literally take that to heart. Oh my God, I'm such a horrible parent. My child has not done well, or I forgot the whatever, like the lunchbox or the homework or whatever. And there's so much of, and then you begin to question the conditioning that's been placed and the society and the programming and the messaging, whether it's caregivers or just culturally or by society or women, and then you are very aware of what's going on, what you're going to buy and what you're not going to buy. So
Yes, 100%. Yeah, like
yeah,
very similarly, I began to notice, just become more aware of, like the internal narrator. And at
right.
one point, it's like, who is that voice that is judging me and saying, this is what people will think. You have to make sure you do this so they don't think that. And it was this
Right.
thought of like, who is that? Who's saying that? And then it was this other realization of the only one, like the only one talking here is you. Like you're inventing what you imagine other people will think or say, but actually
Right.
you're the one who's thinking or saying that to yourself right now. So what if you just stopped? What
Yeah.
if what if you just what if we don't need to listen? What if we don't need to agree with that? And it
Mm.
became much more of this experience of, like watching the clouds move across the sky. Or I sometimes think about it now as the awareness of that internal narrative is like watching the closed captions across the
Mm.
screen, and I
Yeah.
can see them, right? Because the intention is not, we're not going to like block all those thoughts. We're going to stop
Right.
them. We're going to clear. It's just like, can I sit back a little bit and just
Right.
notice them as they move across the sky of the mind? Can I
Yeah.
notice the emotions, like as they rise and fall, like
Yeah.
in the
Like the
ocean of the
waves.
heart, and
Yeah.
just be like, wow, how fascinating this is. What
Yes.
an incredible human experience I'm having right now.
Exactly. Fully being in that experience. And yeah, like you said, watching the captions, or like Michael Singer says, your inner roommate that has a that has an opinion on everything you do. There's the voice, the dialogue that keeps telling you, you should say this. Why is this person wearing red? How is it happening? Why are you not doing this? And you're like, wow, this it's incessant and mostly negative. And when you notice that, I mean, you read all these studies of how we have a negativity bias and a lot of our thoughts are so negative in nature in terms of fear protection, whatever the mechanism. But when you like sit, especially during the practice, and you notice, or even during the day, how much of it is fear based, and you begin to question, like, who is the I, the seat of consciousness that's watching all this arise, instead of thinking I am these thoughts.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. For me too, it's even yeah, just like that distinction of like, I have these thoughts rather than I am, because the am creates that that sticky identity that we then
Mm-hmm.
really like rigidify and like continue to foster. But this idea of having, oh yeah, like I have thoughts, I have emotions, or like these thoughts
Right,
are here, these emotions are here. It's a way of sort of
right.
softening the grip
Yeah,
so we can accept them without holding tightly to them or without
yeah,
like resisting them.
exactly. I know, watching pain, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain,
Mhm.
even that is, we're never taught this in school, we're never taught this, like, to be able to ride that wave when it arises, and not to question into why it is here, because it's already here. What are you going to do,
Right.
right? So, yeah, those are valuable, very valuable
Yeah.
teachings, experiences, meditation, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's also such a great distinction that you shared just now too about we're not questioning the why, because that can turn into rumination so
Exactly.
quickly, which just continues to perpetuate the discomfort, perpetuate the pain. And it's
Yeah.
almost like there's the part of the brain that is chasing the why, imagining
Hmm.
that if I had the right answer, I would feel better. somehow,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Rather than just being like, it's here, let's
Yes.
address with what's here to
Mm-hmm.
alleviate and move through that pain.
Yeah. And when it gets too loud, sometimes, like I said, there could be some other things at play. It also helps to like just journal, do a brain dump, see what's arising, or to, I've been doing a lot of who am I meditation, self inquiry. So asking yourself, who is the one having these thoughts? And if the answer comes like I, then who am I? Like where is the I? You know. So yeah, that kind of quiets the mind. Mm-hmm.
So many practical applications.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What has been your personal experience with, have you always been like a more towards a calm personality, or is it more you had your definition of peace, how it played a role in your life earlier on or after meditation?
It's definitely been enhanced over the years
Mm,
with my mindfulness and meditation practice,
mm,
partly just because, it's like the more you experience being in a state, the more you simply inhabit that state. Like even like posture, the more aware you become of your posture and you find that alignment, the easier it is to just move through the world with that. So
mm,
the practice that I've been doing intentionally with meditation, with mindfulness, has certainly enhanced whatever I kind of arrived on the planet with. I've
mm,
always had um, both an element of kind of grounded like an internal orientation, like a very rich inner world, like very introverted kid, very creative, very imaginative kid. But also I can be spicy and I can be spiky. And sometimes that comes as a surprise to folks. But it's definitely there, and it's interesting. And what I found is that actually maybe this is part of it too. What I found in terms of my experience of peacefulness with meditation, one of the things that's really helped, or that I really notice an effect of, is it's allowed me to also not take things so personally. I
mm,
think one of the sources of, inner turmoil is when we take things personally.
mm,
Right. And so part of cultivating this meditation practice, this mindful perspective, these qualities of inner peace, like getting comfortable with peacefulness, valuing
mm,
peacefulness, seeing how useful and enjoyable it is, like choosing to value peacefulness and then bring it to life, like in very practical ways. One of the effects of that has been sort of reframing my thinking around so many things and being able to see like, oh, this isn't personal. So I can be at peace with things because I
mm,
don't take it personally,
mhm.
right? It's
Yes,
just like, oh, this is a person who is, having some opinions that they want to share with me today.
yes,
And I don't have to take that personally.
yes.
Or this is something that happened to my car and I don't have to take that personally. Like if you have a
Right,
car, it's possible that it might get damaged. It doesn't have to
right.
be that big a deal. And I think has actually been had a huge effect on my
Mm-hmm.
experience over the years.
Exactly. Peeling those layers of it's me or not taking it personally. Yes, very, very important. Um, I want to also add, like, for peace, per se, generally for people who don't have that experience or crave that peace, your lifestyle and choices, and just taking stock of, you know, what is draining you, what is bringing you calm, are worth noting. Like, what are your working hours? How is what are the, the foods, the rest, sleep, your diet, your intake, your water intake, like simple things, but, do you spend time outdoors? Any movement? Is there movement in the body? Is there enough sunlight? Like these are also factor that shouldn't be ignored. What are you watching? Mostly how many hours are you spending on social media? Not like judgment, but more like just noticing, like, where is your life going? What all is happening? What is your interaction, your relationships? All those things worth looking at. No.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely has an effect, right? And
Yeah.
we have so much, ability to choose, to be intentional with what is it that we're choosing to bring into ourselves,
Yes.
whether it's, water and nourishment, or whether it's, consuming social media that might,
Yeah.
create a perpetual reactivity
Yes.
in us.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. If you had, sort of kind of like a final teaching or advice to share with students about peace,
Yeah.
what would that be?
I feel peace is accessible to us. Initially, we may find if we lead busy or chaotic lives, we may need to take out time for ourselves, whether it's moving away somewhere for like 2, 3 days to, like I went for a retreat recently. I felt like it just gave me an opportunity to just be out there in silence with nature or whatever is the method. It doesn't, I'm not of the opinion that you leave everything and become a monk or, whatever. Although if that's what you choose to do, then for sure. Um, take, you could also just make it a practice of 15 minutes for yourself. And initially, you may not get the result of, when you sit down, meditation, reflection, contemplation, whatever is it, in that, give the gift of those 15 minutes completely to yourself. It may or may not bring you peace immediately, but over time, the practice is definitely yields great results because there is more and more. Initially, it's observation, awareness, then it's more acceptance and surrender. Then it's more like peace, and eventually, when you access those deeper states, it is when we've taken this human life and it is accessible to us. Then why not? We should definitely make this a priority too. Mm.
I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
What I would share is just for one breath, even just for this exhale, can I have a peaceful exhale? Just let it be
Mm.
small, almost like a bead on a string, right? And
Yeah.
just in throughout your day, you can find a moment. Can I find a peaceful exhale? Even if you're in a moment that feels heated or you feel frustrated or something's not going your way, that's the
Yeah.
perfect time to practice, right? Like
Yes.
it's really, it's one thing to be peaceful when everything is peaceful around you. It's another thing
Right.
to be peaceful when you're really, feeling challenged by what's happening. So
Yeah.
that is such a great moment to just for this exhale or just for this inhale, just gonna tap into some peacefulness just for that one moment.
Yeah. That is so beautiful, so simple, and yet so effective, right? Just for
Mhm.
this exhale, no big goals, and just can I find that peace? I'm sure we can find moments of that. Um, and growing up in India, I used to always be fascinated by the stories of these saints and these masters, and even ordinary lives, and just of wow, like what is that? What are they talking about? What is this? What is this peace? And um, I feel like the deeper you go, you're able to see what kind of uh, peace they're talking about, like the depth at your deepest essence, at your core. It is flowing. It is there. It's still there. It's not like peace is at a certain time or at 8 o'clock from 8 to 8:30 p.m. But it is we're covered with so many layers of the dust that's all over that sometimes we cannot see it. It feels like very far, but it's not. You know. So
I
yeah.
love that. Well, before we sign off today, will you share with our students when are you teaching? When can they take class with you?
So I teach on Sundays and Mondays, Sundays at noon Eastern and Monday nights at 8 p.m. Uh, Starting January, there's going to be a Tuesday class too. When the details come out, I'll be happy to share.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for that. And for everyone else listening to the recording, a couple of things that you're going to want to know about as we move towards the end of the year. So December 24th through 31st is a members only week. Check your emails for updates about what that means. I believe all of the teachers will be on holiday that week, but there will be resources for members. So be sure to check that out. There is a special class on New Year's Day. It's called Start Fresh, Set Your Resolutions, and Mindset for the New Year. And Devin is leading that class. And then there's a 6-week course, the Complete Meditation Toolkit, starting on January 15th with Devin. That's going to be a great foundation if you are new to meditation and you want to build up a solid practice at the beginning of the year. Or if you just want to refresh and kind of reset yourself and your practice at the beginning of the year, that 6-week course is a great one. And as always, check out withinmeditation.com, check out our events page to learn more and register about all of those special events. And thank you for being a part of our community.
Lovely talking to you, Kim.
Thank you, Herky. It was so great chatting with you too. All right.
Right,
Bye.
take care.